right, exciting week in front of us. Go on the road for the first time in quite some time and get an opportunity to go down and play NAU, a ranked team, one that we didn't face last year. I know they've had a lot of changes since we saw them last. So really excited about the opportunity in front of us. And then, looking in the rear view just a little bit, excited about the way we played. Excited about the way we came out on Saturday, and all three phases contributed to opening up the lead, and then ultimately being able to continue to add to it as the game went along. And we got everybody that could play in the game. That doesn't happen all too often. So valuable experience for a lot of guys, and it just felt we handled our preparation, through the week really well, and then that played out on the field on Saturday. And our guys got to understand that's the way this works. Each week's its own. Preparation is the key to being able to execute on Saturdays, and being able to play football that complements one another as far as offense and defense, probably in particular, is our recipe. And we did that early and often, and then special teams certainly made an impact. The fake field goal, Colby's punt to the one that allowed us to really get the opportunity before the half to score again. A few things to clean up. Certainly, we had a field goal blocked. We missed 2 extra points. We can't have that. So we'll work hard to make sure that doesn't happen again. But by and large, feel really good about the way things turned out on Saturday. So looking forward to NAU. Got a lot of respect for what Coach Wright has done there in a short time, taking them to the playoffs in year 1 last year. They know what they want to do, and they know how to do it. That shows up on film. I know they have the most experienced quarterback in the league in Ty Pennington, and he certainly drives the train for them. And looking at their season thus far, they found ways to win. They've been in some close games. Certainly the come from behind win against Southern Utah was big, and I think they competed well at ASU, and so all the way through, I think they're a team over the last couple of years that's learned how to win, and that's credit goes to Coach Wright and his staff, and then a bunch of good players at the same time. And I know they'll pose problems for us on both sides of the ball, so important that we prepare well and get on a plane on Friday with the intent to win, but the intent to play well first and foremost. That's what it's going to take. Well, I think it felt good to play well. I know we there was a lot of things that were fine and good about the Mercyhurst game, but there was a lot of things that weren't. And it wasn't that this game was perfect by any means, but it was a more complete performance, one that we needed. I think within that, a lot of guys stepped up their level of play, and that's what we need. We need to be improving, and that was I think a definite sign of improvement from one week to the next. And we got to be able to replicate that type of build, I guess, and that's going back to work and practice, and really, I think as a younger group, I think we're starting to figure that out, how important the prep is, how important understanding situational football is, because a lot of our errors within that Mercyhurst game were just not maybe being dialed in exactly to the down and distance at times, and just how we need to play. And not being able to follow up a solid first half of the second half offensively was a little bit about the opportunities, but it's, the opportunities were there, and we should have made the most of them. So it felt good, but it's just one game, and, but it was definitely a step in the right direction. Well, that's the group that's going to set the tone for us each and every week. I think we've grown that group. This is the first game where that second wave of guys played as much as the first wave. I think the second wave of guys are continuing to come into their own, because that's ultimately what it takes for us to be as successful as possible. Is we have 8 guys that we can continue to throw out there, and we need to be able to limit the run game first and foremost with them, and then we got to be able to get after the passer. And he poses a lot of challenges because he can throw it well. He's very good decision maker, and then he runs it well enough to be a real threat there. So for that group, it's really about whatever 4 guys out there just doing their job. and being able to do it at a high level. And that's where the depth piece comes into play, where, if we can throw out a fresh bunch out there time after time after time, I like our chances. And it's really about the O-line and the D-line matching up more than it's a quarterback, but ultimately our D-line's ability to affect a quarterback is the bottom line. So.
I think it's on the Cheetah package, looked like kind of maybe spreading it out a little bit more than in the past, or was that with a reaction to kind of their flight splits?
Their splits would dictate our width to some degree. I don't think we're much different. Maybe situationally, maybe a matchup here and there, but I don't think we've changed that. Eastern Washington would use some wider splits than most, not all the time, but enough. So maybe that's the way it appeared to make it out.
Justin mentioned a really good week of practice being probably the best of the season. Did you feel kind of similarly about that?
Yeah. I think we, in particular, the most important days, Tuesday and Wednesday, were really good work days. And good work days, good attention to detail. And the attention to detail isn't always just hey, we got all the schemes dialed in necessarily, but it's what does our speed look like? What does our pad level look like? What does our leverage look like? All those things. I know for him, it was as sharp as he's been for sure. And then we followed it up with, I think, a Thursday practice where, what you want to see on Thursday is just a crispness. We're, not having to feel like you need to repeat anything. Ball's not hitting the ground, all that kind of stuff on offense, and defensively, the ball's certainly not getting behind us. So I think that was, and so again, I think our guys are figuring out the formula, and it's about the work done Monday to Friday, and we need to be able to not only replicate that, but continue to allow that to, get better as we go through each one of these weeks. We would have both been offensive coordinators back in 2010 here. That's the only time. I know Coach Owens, Jody played during that time, then he coached with them at Pitt State. So I think he took over a program that, I think they were talented when we played them in 22 and 23. We had a dogfight in 22 down there, and we escaped. And then in 23, I think we got after them pretty good up here. But you felt like they were talented. In any given week, they could do something. And so what he's obviously brought is a level of consistency that they just didn't have those first couple years that we played them and I was in the league, I guess. And that's a credit to him. It's a credit to I think him having a head coaching philosophy. I know he's very involved in the offensive side and has a plan and being able to bring quarterback in particular with him, I'm sure made that transition, a little more seamless than it might have been otherwise. But they had good players. I think they have a program that's invested, in wanting to be successful. So, seems like the right man for the job, and he's done a good job in his first couple of years. Yeah, this is rubber meets the road here a little bit. I know what they do is a balanced attack. They want to basically take what the defense will give you, and that's for us it's not allowing the big play. It's being able to get off blocks and knock the run down and challenge the ball in the air. So I think it's a big challenge for our guys, and it's not that the last few weeks haven't been in their own right, but as far as just their level of success, to your point, the experienced quarterback piece, this will be a significant test for us, and I think it's I think we've built ourselves up to be able to be prepared for that, and I think our guys certainly recognize what this team is capable of, and have a great deal of respect for them, and hopefully that brings out the best in us. Well, I think very disruptive, very aggressive at times, but at the same time coordinated. It isn't like they're just throwing things against the wall. They move around plenty. They'll heat you up quite a bit. They have really good size, and they're three down linemen. Very active linebackers that they'll do a lot with, blitz, drop, all that kind of stuff. So, they've not having played them before with this, with this scheme. This is our first venture into it, and they weren't probably a team defensively that we would have watched a lot last year because they differed from us quite a bit. So, really as we get into this week, this is the first I've really been able to study them, but impressed with the variety of things they do, and then how sound they are within that variety. Yeah. To have a couple guys in Troy and Brody, make it all the way to the finalist side of it, and be able to get down to Vegas is something else. And whether Kenny will get that far or not, I don't know. But Kenny's a good student. He's got his undergrad degree. He's going after a graduate degree. I think you got to be a good player at the same time to warrant this respect, that honor. So he certainly is that as well. So proud that he's in that semifinal ranking, I guess, right now, or grouping, and we'll see where it goes. But to have guys be regarded in such a way for you're a scholar athlete, you have to be a good student, you have to take that seriously, and you have to produce on the field too. So ideally that's the mindset all our guys have, and have some guys to be able to recognize that high level is something proud of.
What would make you guys kind of stick with that offensive line unit with Cedric at right tackle and Braden at left?
Going through the week and coming out of the previous week, it wasn't the intention to maybe roll as much as we did. I think the rolling was just to say, here's what we could do potentially. We could have some moving parts. Let Everett settle in as a right guard. Again, Titan having the right guard, right tackle flexibility. Cedric could potentially swing, but be able to settle in on one group. So being able to set on one group is ideally about getting the best out there in our best performance. And I think for those guys that are in that position, their peace of mind and their preparation is maybe part of it. But I think that's ultimately, we left a week thinking this is our best way to move forward. And I thought we played better. Okay, I mean, I think there's still meat on the bone for that offensive line, but I think we're making progress.
Getting movements in on at least a play early, and then Hunter had a pancake, I think, on the Adam Jones touchdown. Just that we talk a lot about that tight end group, but how do you feel just like, especially Hunter with the touchdown and plays he was made?
Definitely Hunter. He shined. A couple blocks. I know which one you're talking about. That's out in space for everybody to see. And then he ran away from their defenders on that touchdown. So he's a guy that's third year. I think has flashed from time to time. But what we need out of him is a consistent level of play. And that that game to me was that. That was the step in direction that he needed to take. Getting Lubens out there a little bit. I know he's got some dynamic ability. Young player, second year, all that. So, he's a guy at the very least that needs to show up on special teams, and we'll see what that means for him offensively. But I know he's got some ability, and time will tell as far as how much he gets out there. But important group for us to have success in all pieces of the offense for sure. And then they certainly is a group that needs to contribute on special teams too. Yeah. Colby's he's getting there. I still know in that game he kicked one out of bounds, and he really hit his last punt. But I think a couple things. I think he's just understanding the pace and the tempo. I mean, if he goes out there from a kickoff perspective, and whether he's going in the wind or not, I mean, I thought going towards Sonny Holland, he kicked off very well, and then you flip around, you got a little bit of breeze. You don't need to change the way you're doing things. So after the one that went out of bounds, he corrected and got good hang time, and we covered pretty well, even though they weren't touchbacks. On the punt side, I think the best thing is we haven't had him punt as much. I think the first 2 weeks and how much he had to punt was problematic onto itself. So still trying to find a level of consistency. His ability to put that ball at the one, though, that was significant. He hadn't really done that yet. And while it's a good play by Dane, the play is really Colby getting that ball up in the air and allowing Dane to get down there. and putting it where he did, because then that put them in a real tough spot on offense and allowed us to get the ball back. And then his athleticism is certainly there. As far as just all-around athletes on our whole team, he would be up there. He was a four-sport guy in high school that was really good at everything, and I'm sure he could have done some other things from a college perspective. And we're just happy he's here, and so excited about what he's going to continue to become. Yeah, nothing new out of the game. So that's a couple weeks like that. I know Neil is getting closer. So what that means for him this week, it's probably wait and see at best. I know for sure we'll get him back next week. So this week is a little bit of a transition for him. Taki's working hard to get back. Where he's in that 2-week range. And so his 2-week range, he's a little bit out there, but I know Neil now is within the 2-week range. Different injuries completely. So, those two right now are the two that we're working without. But otherwise, really pretty healthy as a football team.
Anything else you learned about just the missed kicks in that game, and then just be able to correct it?
Yeah, the first one, it's maybe a little bit of penetration. And a lower kick because we're a little further out, and the guy getting his hand up where he needed to. And the extra points were they were back-to-back misses and very similar, where I don't know, the first one, Miles rushed a little bit and pulled it, and then, you get thinking about it a little too much, and then the next one he really pulled. So, it was good that we got him a couple more opportunities, because then he was on the money after that. As a kicker, you start thinking about too much. And I know a block kick, I think, it certainly affects a kicker, and how you think you need to be faster or whatever. And I think that maybe had a little bit of effect, but for how consistent he's been, he hasn't maybe had a day quite like that going back to Utah Tech, which was the second game I think he would have kicked. So imagine he's going to get back on track, and that's the charge, and we have a lot of confidence in him.
Coach Colton seems to be one of those young guys taking those opportunities. Will we see him get more carries with that?
Each game is its own. I know we really intend on getting our two starters, get them going. And I've said it before. I think to have a stable of backs that then includes Colson and includes Jared, I think it's a real luxury. And the health of the whole group kind of dictates those opportunities. But opportunities for both Adam and Julius is where we start. I know, I think Adam just got above 10 and Julius was less than 10. So ideally those guys first and foremost would be getting, double digits. And then, wherever those opportunities present themselves, I think what you see in Colson and Jared is they're ready to go. And again, you said it, they're going to make the most of their opportunities. So excited about that group as a whole. Getting the top two guys going first and foremost is going to continue to be a priority.
The defense has been turnover hungry the last few weeks. How do you plan on continuing that against an offense that really doesn't turn the ball over that much?
Well, just when opportunities to knock the ball loose present themselves, we got to be after it, and that's what we did a couple times. We got a couple balls that got loose. We got the one ball in the air. I don't know that we had a great opportunity from an interception standpoint in that game, but those opportunities may or may not present themselves. But when they do, we got to make it. So it's about relentless effort. It's about being in the right place at the right time sometimes, and then just making a play. Turnover margin in any of these games that on paper are going to be tight is so critical. And we haven't turned the ball over a lot on the offensive side, but we haven't taken away a ton either. I know we have a little bit more as of late, so hopefully that trend continues.
Braden had a good block on that big field goal. It seemed like he had a few unrun blocks in the game. How do you feel like this is run blocking development?
Yeah, he's 5 games into this now, so I think he's each game he's adding to that level of experience and his awareness. I think that's the one thing until you get out there and play, and your awareness as far as speed of the game, what each one of these opponents can bring to the table. What does the picture in front of you look like to then dictate what the defense can maybe do? I think those are all things he's improving upon. He works real hard, and his attention to detail for a young player is really high. But I just think his experience each and every week is allowing him to make this incremental growth that we are seeing. He's got such a high ceiling, but he's progressing the right way, and excited we have him, and excited, just his mindset and how he's going after this opportunity as a young player. Mm-hmm. Well, I think we certainly know that he's got speed that it probably separates him from a lot of guys on the offense, especially once he gets up and goes. So I think it's always out there. I think what Coach Sturbick and the offensive staff, I really appreciate his attitude. He's stayed in the fight, and there's another guy getting out there and limited opportunities. That's the first he'd play, and then he makes a play, and that's really what you want to see, guys that appreciate being part of this. Whatever they are given, they're going to try to make the best of it. But no doubt he's got ability, and we'll see where that kind of fits, as we continue to go through the season.
Do you have anything?
If we can get him running on some fakes here and there, I think that's as far as we want to go with that. But yeah, that's where whether he was a really good safety in college and high school, and that could, I think, translate his athleticism. But he's got enough on his plate right now, I think. Yeah, I think we've known that. I remember correctly, I think that's the first time in a game he's kind of got loose like that. But yeah, he's got a different ability for a big guy, and he's the biggest of our tight ends at the same time. So it's my hope for him is he continues to see what he can do. Sometimes guys don't maybe recognize how good they can be. And for Hunter, I think again, a guy with a high ceiling, we need that. That continue to close, how his ability to continue to do things that maybe we haven't seen for the first time. And I thought he blocked particularly well in this game as well. So, yeah, getting him involved. I know Justin just missed him down the sideline on one later in the game, but I think he, his speed, his size, he can be a real threat down the field, and hopefully those types of plays continue to show up. Yeah, it needs to. Obviously there's guys within the offense that we're going to maybe make more attempts to get the ball to, I suppose, game plan some things for. But ultimately, when you have athleticism all over the place, then then we don't have to dictate where the ball goes so much. It's just let it go where it's supposed to based on the defense. I think that's probably the biggest thing, and have some guys that can be interchangeable in some roles. I know. Getting Chris going is really important for our offense. I know he caught those couple balls in that first drive where he made some guys miss, and I think he showed a little bit of what he's capable of. You mentioned Dane. I think Dane's done a really good job with ball finding him, I suppose, time and time again. But then him really making key plays. His catch on that first third down, it wasn't an easy play. It wasn't an easy throw for Justin, but that was a big little play in a game just to get us going and for us to stay on the field early. So, yeah, and Trimble hasn't done a lot yet, but I know he's a guy that's capable of being in the mix. And Ryan King had a long pass. I think he's more than capable. And we talked about Lubens a little bit. Lubens Valson is that type of guy. So, yeah, the more guys that we have that are capable of making plays, I think easier job for Justin just to distribute it and let those guys go do what they can do. Yeah, I think that's how we want him to look. That's how we want to coach him up. I think the Oregon game certainly there was some things that got exposed as far as our tackling, our leverage against a phenomenal team. And I think good or bad, right or wrong, I think we learned quite a bit that day, and I think we've really taken that to heart. We've really tackled well. We've pursued fairly well. We've been in the right place. The ball hasn't really gotten behind us a whole lot, and those have to all be hallmarks of our defense. 11 guys out there doing their job. No one guy, more important than any other, honestly. And I think they really bought into that. And the more you get more guys you play, I think it feeds to that. And I think we're getting there as far as being able to play more and more guys. So excited about how we've played, and this will be a big test in front of us. But I think the discipline that we preach, I think each and every week has played out a little bit more on the field, and that's a sign of a defense that's starting to believe more and more in itself, and at the same time not taking any shortcuts in its preparation. Yeah, it's a great place to start. I know that, and so you add that to I think the talent that was there, and they've brought in a lot of players at the same time. It's a really good recipe for being able to take over a program when you got a guy that how he operates, vice versa from the coach quarterback relationship, and I don't know Ty at all, but my guess is he's a heck of a teammate. To be able to make that move, and I'm sure become a leader, become a little bit of a spokesperson, I'm sure, for Coach Wright. How big that piece is when your quarterback in the locker room and away from the facility is a guy that's preaching the same thing as a coach. I think that probably had a lot to do with their success last year, and continuing to make the transition, and just the level of confidence and belief when you have good quarterback play on any team at any level is a place where a lot of people would start, and they have that. I know he was down for a little bit last year, and that they maybe had their most struggles during that stretch. So I think it's a credit to who he is as a player. But my guess is he's an excellent teammate, excellent leader, and that's been a big deal for Coach Wright in these first couple years. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. It's all these smaller domes at the FCS level, be it Pocatello, Moscow, Vermilion, Grand Forks. They're all their own deal. I think they certainly can get much more noise into than 10,000 people in an outdoor stadium. I know that's a piece of it. I don't know that noise was a factor the last time we played there. Their quarterback had a day. I know that. I think that was the biggest deal that day. But I suppose they're just unique. You get end zones that are different, and you don't have the sky to look up at. I guess there's all those things. They're closed-in arenas that were built in most cases a long time ago. So I know it looks like a bigger version of the brick when you look at it the way this one's set up. So I think it's the noise piece is the first thing I would go to, and what it can be, because of you take 10,000 people and put them outside, they're not going to be much of a factor. You take 10,000 people inside, that can be a real factor. And there's no elements at the same time. So a day like they had a couple years back in the passing game, and they're coming from behind, it's kind of sky's the limit as far as that goes. So I know we had a real challenge that day. We found a way, and that's going to be the bottom line this week.